So now in the opening plenary next, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to call upon the co-chair PIWOT 2025 and chairman Avalon Consulting, Mr. Raj Nair. Of course, a lot of you know about him, but just allow me an opportunity to reintroduce Mr. Nair. The conference co-chair and, of course, the chairman of Avalon Consulting, which is a prominent management consulting firm that specializes in strategic advice solutions for businesses, particularly in the areas of technology, operations, and business transformation. As the chairman of Avalon Consulting, Mr. Nair plays a pivotal role in shaping the firm's strategic direction and helping clients across various industries achieve business transformation and operational excellence. With that, let's welcome him with a bigger round of applause as he joins us for the opening plenary.
Welcome to the Gateway into the Future. What I'm going to do is, in the first part, I will talk about just 6 things that you ought to know about AI. I'm not going to do anything technical, although the last 2 years I've spent all my time in the technical aspects of AI, but it's not going to be imposed upon you. It's 6 things among the various things you ought to know about AI. And the second part will be about the 4 things you need to do to be able to win in the age of AI. What I'd like you to appreciate is that we're almost there. We're being pushed by various currents of various kinds of technologies into the future through the gateway. At the same time, the gateway, on the other side of the gateway, future is pulling us at a very fast pace. So we are moving at a great pace into the future, and the future world we are going to have is one where you will cohabit with intelligent machines, humanoids or intelligent robots, software, AI, which can think, reason, and act. It can become more intelligent than us one day, and that day is called the singularity moment. It's not a day when suddenly there'll be a white flash in the sky and we suddenly see something new happening. It's going to happen over a period of 3 or 4 years. But when is that going to happen? Back in the year 2000, many people believed that this will be about 100 years away. By 2010, it was recognized that this is probably going to be somewhere around 2050, 2075. As of 23, people believe that could be 2035, and I'm here standing before you to suggest that it's probably going to be much earlier, probably 5 years away, maybe 7 years away, but you've already started smelling the AI transformation happening, and that's what's important for you. So the singularity moment is pretty close by. We're going to live in another world, and we'll have teams where you'll have humanoids or robots as well as your human team members, and you have to figure out how to work together as a team. Now, one important thing that you need to understand is that what we think is cutting edge today, and a lot of people have talked about cutting edge things over the past 2 days, is going to be tomorrow's wasteland, so don't doze off. I'll give you an example. For instance, it comes from all directions. The gentleman in the middle is Demis Hassabis, who won the Nobel Prize for Chemistry a few months ago in 2024. He was an avid board games player. At the age of 13 rather, he became the national chess champion of England. He kept on developing new games and doing coding, and this coding took him all the way to his PhD in neuroscience, cognitive neuroscience, which is AI. And in a few years later, he set up a company called DeepMind, which was later sold to Google. Now, DeepMind created an AI which beats the world champion in chess, the world champion in Go, and Go is far more complex than chess, by the way. In 2019, they created an AI which could play any game, any board game, without knowing the rules or knowing even the name of the game. But in between, in 2017, they took part in a grand challenge. The grand challenge was to uncover the mystery of the structure of proteins. They won the first prize in the world when they correctly described the structure of 25 of the 43 proteins in the test. 5 years later, just 5 years later, they not only got 100% right, but they discovered the structure, a three-dimensional structure of 200 million proteins, all the proteins known to humankind. So he was awarded the Nobel Prize for Chemistry in 2024. We heard a little while ago the 23 Nobel Prize winner. Now, the important thing is that board games and coding to biology, it opened it was like a key to open unlocked the opportunity to discover new drugs for solving problems of various diseases. So in the next 3 or 4 years, you're going to see unbelievably new drugs coming up on account of this particular work. It was thought that it will take 125 years to reach this stage because it has to be done by hundreds of scientists working laboriously with X-ray crystallography to be able to uncover 200 million proteins. It's happened in 5 years. Real acceleration. So I don't need to explain how much is happening in education. People have talked about it in agriculture, in banking. I'm working with, along with, as a consultant to a lender, and jointly with IIT Bombay's AI team, to figure out a completely new way of doing risk management, completely new way of doing HR, completely new way of making every aspect of that lending company business change. So in another 2 years, you'll see a completely different animal in the space, probably the first in the world. It's changed manufacturing. It's changed autonomous vehicles. I would have loved to talk, but we are running out of time, about autonomous vehicle. It uses lakhs and lakhs of neurons to be able to do things. A recent experiment has managed with just 19 neurons and doing better accuracy than all these ones with lakhs of neurons. That's called liquid neural networks. And then manufacturing is changing, your office space is changing, everything is changing, and everything is changing rapidly. So you could see how in 5 years it exponentially changed, but our mind has no problem. The mindset is a problem, as someone said the other day. Our mindset is linear. Whether we work in parallel or in series, we have a linear mindset. That's what I'd like you to think. Let's do a quick experiment. Take a piece of paper and fold it into 2. Fold it again, it'll become 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. Can anyone just guess, if we fold it 41 times, how high will it be? Will it be 3 feet? Will it be as 6 feet as tall as I am? Or as high as the ceiling? What do you think it'll be? A quick answer from somebody? Sorry? More than this building. Okay. Anyone more? Sorry? Okay. But actually it is from here to the moon. In 41 folds. And if you do the 42nd fold, it will be from here to the moon and back. That's exponential. And that's exponential with just doubling. Exponential can happen tripling 4 times. So if that's quadrupling, you will be out of the solar system. And that's the rate at which technology is going to come up. I'll show you these are, I don't want to go again because of lack of time, and the next speakers would speak. I just look at the green graph, which is like the classical S-curve. That's speech recognition. And now look at the ones after 2016. They're almost going vertical, more and more vertical, and that's exponential. Every new thing, whether it's computation or whatever it is going to go vertical. Just about 15 days ago, a paper was published about how some of the foundational math problems which have not been solved for 70 years had now got solved like this. But of course, it takes up a lot of energy and a lot of tokens. But that's not the problem. The point is that you can solve the most unsolved problems in mathematics with LLMs. So now this is not to scare you, but to tell you there's a great opportunity in whichever sector you're working, if you were able to get AI as your companion. Okay? Now, the other thing I want you to understand is that autonomous agents, AI agents, are going to change our life. It's going to change the game. Now, you might say, okay, what's so great about agents? Because the important thing is that agent is not your rep who's doing work for you in Delhi to influence the government, or somebody who's like running another branch for you somewhere. Agency means something which has got the power to act, to decide, and to influence others. That's the English meaning of agency. So AI agents will have the power to do things. From the time humankind started, we have built all kinds of tools. And all these tools are for us to use whichever we want and when we want. But once you give something agency, it acts on its own. So AI agents are here. In fact, one of my companies is working on AI agents for a number of companies right now. I want you to read this tombstone in the graveyard. It says, RIP, B2B business, B2B SaaS business, passed away peacefully on 1st of June 2026. He had a fall in December 2024, and it disabled him, and he couldn't get up, and he died 18 months ago. But if Satya Nadella had his way, it would have died next month. He believes it's gone, kaput. But I'm saying it's not going to be that far. That's an exaggeration. It will take a few months. I'm not suggesting that B2B software companies are dead. The B2B software companies are going to use a different business model. Like 24 years ago, we used to get software in boxes, floppy disk, CD-ROMs, DVDs. You don't see them anymore because SaaS companies destroyed them. Now SaaS companies are going to get them. SaaS as a business model is going, and you'll have AI agents. AI agents because you can communicate with your AI agent in natural language, whether it's audio or text, and it will figure out how to interpret your question or your instruction and can pick up the relevant information from whatever database. It doesn't care what database it is, unlike in the case of SaaS where you do coding, and pick up the data that's required from multiple databases, generate the answer to your question or act based on your instruction, and then you soon have the answer. So that's what AI agents are going to do. The next thing is a question to you. Do you think having electricity is a competitive advantage, a sustainable competitive advantage? No. Everybody else has got access to electricity. So it's not, you can't say, I've got electricity, so I'm going to be competitive. Having a PC or a computer in your company is also not going to give you any competitive advantage. Everybody has it. It's cheap, easily accessible. Now the question is, will deploying AI give you sustainable competitive advantage? If you read literature and you read newspapers, it'll give the impression that yes, it's a source of competitive advantage, a long-term competitive advantage. I'd like to suggest that it is not a source of competitive advantage, although I'm an evangelist for AI. I'm telling you, not having AI is going to be a competitive disadvantage. Of course, in the first 2-3 years, as a pioneer or the first mover, you will have advantage. But after that, it's not a competitive advantage. And secondly, you don't need to know anything about technology to be able to use AI. It'll come packaged for you to use, or it'll be embedded in the products you use every day. So you don't have to worry about it. You just have to accept that this is the new world. Okay? But there are good things and bad things, like in most cases. And the person you see on the left out there is a gentleman named Mustafa Suleyman, who was the co-founder with Demis Hassabis of this company called DeepMind. Now, he's written an outstanding book, which was released last year in 2024. It's called The Coming Wave. I recommend it to everybody. Please read it. It's a bit fat. It's an amazing book. It tells you about all that's going to happen, and also says you must regulate AI. Now, it might sound retrograde, but there are good reasons why we need to regulate AI, because on the one hand, we have companies like Anthropic, which say we are here to create safe AI, trustable AI. And on the other extreme, we have rogue elements developing AI to actually destroy our happiness and cheat us. And in between, we have all kinds of companies, including OpenAI's Sam Altman. Okay, this is my personal view. He's a cowboy. Sometimes he says things, sometimes he means something. You don't know what he means and what he says is connected. Often, he exaggerates like crazy. And he says he's not doing something when he's actually doing things. So there's a need for regulation. Now you might say, oh, regulation, you're killing progress. You're not killing progress. By the way, you know which is the industry which is going the fastest? Biotechnology. The most regulated industry in the world, biotech and pharma. Now, because of the regulations, people are finding excellent ways of finding the good things and good ways of producing new solutions. So I'd like to suggest that a little amount of regulation is good, and this regulation is going to create even more innovation. Okay? Now let me come back to the 4 things, and I'm going to wrap it up fast, because we need to save time. There's 4 things that you need to do to succeed in the world of AI. First is, be a very curious seeker of knowledge, extremely curious seeker of knowledge. We hear about all the great things that happened in the last century. The atom bomb, the car, the plane, the penicillin, this, that, and the list is endless. It's unbelievable the kind of things that have happened in the last 100 years. Okay? But there's a reason why it's happened. Before the Industrial Revolution, also, all kinds of fantastic things have happened. We had Copernicus, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle. Now, one thing that's important to understand is none of them created deadly things because they were schooled in that one area of knowledge. For instance, Copernicus, we all know is a great astronomer, but he's a great mathematician and a theologist of great repute. Only when I went to see the house he lived in about 450 years ago in Poland, I realized that he had actually gone to Italy to study medicine, and he qualified. So it's like medicine, mathematics, theology, all kinds of things. That led him to create unbelievable things. Plato studied poetry. He's the one who gave us the theory of ideas. He studied poetry and gymnastics and philosophy. What's that got to do with theory of ideas? Socrates was too poor to have classical Greek education. He taught himself various things from various fields of knowledge. And we have the Socrates method of critical thinking. Aristotle, he gave us the concept of form, the concept of function, classification, hierarchy, which all IT people here use today. Not just IT people use that, everybody else uses. That concept came from Aristotle. And he studied biology, botany, physiology, and it was underpinned by philosophy. So curiosity had led them to all kinds of fields, and that has led to great solutions for us. Even in the industrial age, we think it's all these great guys who made cars and planes and TVs and so on and so forth. It's actually about 25 great thinkers who created it. I'm just naming 4. Einstein, he was trained to become a school teacher in physics and math, but he didn't stop today he would have been told, aspire to become vice principal and principal. Instead, he went on to do a PhD in the determination of molecular dimensions. And in the year 2005, it is considered in physics the year of magic. He published 5 path-breaking papers, of which most of you have only heard of one, which is the theory of relativity, E is equal to mc squared. But that has this huge implications on the atom bomb, nuclear energy, and all kinds of things. Lavoisier is the father of chemistry. He didn't do chemistry, he was an accountant. He gave us the understanding that there's something called oxygen, there's something called water, which is actually 2 molecules of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen. An accountant, not a chemistry graduate. Okay? He created the law of conservation of mass, an accountant. Michael Faraday, he didn't even have education, he was too poor. He was working as a bookbinder. Now this bookbinder used to take time off to read some books which he had got for binding, and he figured out that electricity and magnetism are not 2 different things, they're together. Somebody talked about a similar subject a little while ago, but he's the first one to figure out that these are interchangeable. And we have tremendous uses today in many products because of that. James Maxwell was fascinated by what Michael Faraday did. And he felt that this pattern of shifting from magnetism to electricity has a mathematical underpinning. And he created the laws, Maxwell's laws, which we studied in physics in school, in college. So all these guys had tremendous curiosity. So if you develop curiosity, you know how to survive in this coming world. We have to think of, it's critical thinking that's going to save us, it's going to help us. This gentleman out here won the Nobel Prize for economics. You know what his subject is? He's a PhD in psychology. It's not economics. He won the PhD in economics. And he wrote an interesting book called Thinking Fast, Thinking Slow. Now, Kahneman said that there are two types of thinking. He reduced it to two systems. System one is where you think, act instantly, because you are basing it on the knowledge you already have, some rules, some intuition. So you can act immediately. And the other one is system two thinking, which requires you to solve a problem. You have to think of what questions do I need to ask? And by getting answers to these questions, I'm going to be able to solve the problem. So critical thinking requires you to know what questions to ask when you're faced with a problem. And that is what is absolutely stunning. And if you're a person who thinks that you can live life with system one, well, that battle has already been won by AI. System two, which requires empathy, physical work, these are not something AI is going to be able to master easily. Most of our work involves a combination. As you go higher up in the organization, whether you're in academia or R&D or in commercial business, you get more and more system two thinking requirement, and only those who have system two thinking requirement actually move up the hierarchy and reach the board levels. Now that's safe. So what we really need to win in this world of AI, the new world we're coming to, is the Socrates method, the critical thinking, or Kahneman's way of saying that it's system two. Now, you may be 40 years old, 50 years old. If you're 40 years old, you've got at least 30 years more of professional career. And if you've got a 15-year-old, he might ask you, what should I be studying so that I'll be successful in future? Well, the answer comes from Yuval Noah Harari. He says, the best advice I can give a 15-year-old is don't rely too much on adults. Most of them mean well, but they just don't understand the world. Okay? That's a scathing statement, but what it says is that you have to be a lifelong student. Whichever field you are, think about it, think more about it, learn more about it, and move on to other fields and keep learning new and newer things all the way through your life. Okay? That's what's going to help us survive in this ever-changing world. And one thing which Steve Jobs was famous for, when he launched products, he'd talk about some soft product which is not so important. At the end of the speech, he'd say, and one more thing. And then he'll say, this is something Apple is revealing. And everybody would be waiting for that one more thing statement. No, he says that learn continually, there'll always be one more thing to learn. So you're never short of things to learn. Mr. Edward Deming was a little more cut and dry. He said, learning is not compulsory, neither is survival. Okay? So, and actually we don't have to try hard because life teaches us so many things every day. So how can we stop learning? We don't have to try hard. And you don't have to be a brilliant genius. Einstein says, I have no special talent. I'm only passionately curious. So the biggest thing that we need for survival and success in the AI-driven world is just be curious all the while. Okay? 10 years ago, I had this gentleman named Marshall Goldsmith, one of the leading thinkers, in my office, in our conference room, talking to some of my colleagues. And he started off by saying, what got you here will not get you there. So what got you here till the gateway is not going to get you beyond that. It's curiosity, desire to learn new things and different fields. I'll make a confession. For the last 40 years, every week, I have told myself I have to learn some new topic. And every week there has been a new topic. And it's been fun, the journey. What you need is a core skill and supplemented with critical thinking. I just talked about Kahneman and Socrates, resilience, emotional intelligence, creativity, initiative, active learning, and also understand that the world of trust which we were built on has gone because of AI, and there's a need to be conscious of the need for cybersecurity. So I'd like to thank you all for listening to me. The 6 things that you need to know about AI, rest you don't worry about, and the 4 things you need to know to be able to succeed in the age of AI. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Raj Nair, for joining us. Of course, we'd like to now invite Debashish Bhattacharya, Chairman of Pan IIT. Let's get both the leaders in the center of the stage. Of course, we'd like to have this moment of appreciation to Mr. Nair, Lily, and I think the wise thing to do is to give him a bigger round of applause for a fantastic deliberation, and of course, being the co-chair of PIWOT 2025, Mr. Nair has incredibly led this event. And of course, we have the chairman of Pan IIT, Mr. Debashish Bhattacharya.